In the far, quiet corner of the universe, a small spacecraft drifted toward a world that looked almost peaceful from orbit. The planet below was covered entirely in water, an endless blue circle, shining softly under the faint light of a distant star. From above it looked calm, almost silent, like a giant mirror reflecting the darkness of space. But nothing about this world was simple, and nothing about this world was safe. The explorers inside the craft were trained, skilled and mentally strong. But even their hearts beat faster as the ship descended through the thin atmosphere. The ship trembled a little, shaking like a leaf in the cold wind of space. The heavy sounds of the engines echoed through the cabin as the landing sequence began. Dr. Mara, one of the explorers, stood near the glass window, watching the planet grow larger below. Her eyes were sharp but filled with tension. She had seen many worlds in her career, but this one felt different, strange and unpredictable, as if nature itself was warning them to stay away. She took a slow breath, her helmet still held under her arm, and whispered to herself, "We have to be careful, very careful." The documentary narrator's voice begins softly. "This is the water planet, a world orbiting dangerously close to a supermassive black hole. Time here moves differently. 1 hour on this world equals several years outside. Every step these explorers take will cost precious years back home." The craft lowered itself gently. Harsh winds pushed against the ship, causing small vibrations that ran through the metal. The sky outside looked dull and gray with heavy clouds hanging low. It felt like a world waiting for a storm, like a silent ocean holding secrets beneath its calm surface. When the spacecraft finally touched the water, it didn't land on solid ground, because there was none. Its landing gear sank slightly into the shallow water. The ripples spread in every direction, breaking the stillness. The team inside took a moment to stabilize their balance. A low beep sounded. "We have landed," the pilot announced, trying to keep his voice steady. The explorers exchanged looks. Their mission was simple: recover a missing data beacon from a previous probe that had crashed here. But simple did not mean easy, especially not on a world like this. They put on their helmets one by one. The seals locked with a sharp click. Their breathing became slower and deeper as they adjusted to the suit systems. Even inside the suits, they could feel the air was heavier than usual, like the entire planet was pressing down on them. The narrator continues. The water planet rotates slowly and silently, orbiting the black hole called Gargantua. The enormous gravitational pull not only stretches the ocean into strange shapes, but also bends time itself. Every second here is expensive. Every minute is dangerous. The large side door opened with a metallic hiss. A rush of cold, salty air entered the cabin. The wind carried the strange smell of minerals and something ancient. The explorers stepped out onto the ramp, staring at the endless ocean stretching to the horizon. The water was only knee-deep, dark but strangely reflective. It moved gently like a giant sleeping creature breathing slowly. There was no land, no mountains, no trees, just water everywhere. Dr. Mara took her first step into the ocean. Her foot sank slowly and small waves circled around her leg. She felt the weight immediately. The gravity on this planet was slightly stronger, each step requiring more effort. But she kept moving, scanning the surroundings. At first glance, and it seems peaceful, the narrator said. But this calmness hides a truth. On a world controlled by a black hole, even the smallest wave can be a warning of something far greater. The rest of the team followed, carrying scanners and tools. Their boots made soft splashes as they walked. The sky above was silent and empty, painted in soft blue and gray layers. The light felt dim, as if the universe had turned down the brightness. A gentle wind blew across the ocean's surface, forming tiny ripples. The explorers stood quietly for a moment, looking around. "It feels too quiet," one of them whispered. Dr. Mara agreed. There were no birds, no insects, no life at all. Only the sound of the wind and the soft movement of water. It made the planet feel empty and mysterious. A scanner beeped, showing weak signals. "The data beacon is about 2 kilometers west," the pilot said. "It's probably damaged. We need to move fast." They began walking slowly in that direction, water splashing around their suits. Every step felt heavier, almost delayed, like the planet did not want them to move. The ground beneath the water was flat and muddy, giving them little grip. But they pushed forward, determined to complete their mission quickly. As they walked, the narrator's tone grew darker. What the explorers do not know is that this quiet planet is shaped by forces far beyond Earth's understanding. The black hole nearby creates gravitational tides strong enough to raise water hundreds of meters high. These waves move slowly at first, but once they rise, nothing can stop them. But the team remained unaware. Their instruments struggled to keep stable readings because of the strong gravitational distortion. The horizon in the distance looked slightly curved, an unusual sight. Dr. Mara noticed it first. "Why does the horizon look bent?" she asked, slowing her steps. The pilot frowned. It must be the gravitational pull. Light bends here. They kept moving. The ocean reflected the dull sky above, making everything look like one continuous sheet of gray and dark blue. The air felt thicker, like a warning pressing against them. The narrator explained softly, the human eye is not trained to see gravity bending light. On this world, the horizon shifts subtly, creating illusions. What seems far might be close. Seems harmless may be deadly. The team reached a deeper part of the water. It rose to their waists, slowing them even more. Their suits, although strong, were not designed for swimming. Each step felt like dragging heavy weights through mud. Suddenly, a strange metallic sound echoed from underwater. What was that? One explorer asked, turning quickly. The water moved in a slow swirl around them, but nothing was visible beneath the surface. It's just the ocean floor shifting, others said, though his voice trembled slightly. But Dr. Mara felt uneasy. Her instincts told her the planet was alive, not with creatures, but with force. The gravity, the tides, the ocean, everything moved in patterns they did not understand. They kept walking, the sky darkening slightly. Heavy clouds rolled overhead, moving faster than before. The wind picked up, creating small waves around their legs. Storm incoming, the pilot asked. Dr. Mara checked the sky. Not sure, but let's hurry. Another metallic echo came from below the water, louder this time. The team froze again, scanning the surface. Still nothing. The narrator added, sounds on this planet travel strangely. Water is pulled by gravity in unpredictable ways. Echoes stretch, bend, and become louder or quieter without warning. The team is surrounded by mysteries they cannot see. As they moved forward again, they noticed the waves growing slightly bigger. The wind pushed harder against their suits. The water began to feel colder. Dr. Mara checked her wrist display. We're losing time, she said. The black hole is affecting our signals. We must get the beacon fast and return. The team continued. Every few minutes, Dr. Mara looked at the horizon. It was still curved, but now looked heavier, thicker, like something was hidden behind the distant mist. The narrator's voice deepened. On the water planet, danger does not announce itself with loud warnings. It rises slowly, silently, until it becomes too large to escape. The explorers reached a flat metal object half buried in the water, the crash remains of the earlier probe. Pieces were scattered around, some floating gently, others stuck in the mud. Dr. Mara knelt beside it. This must be it. The beacon should be nearby. The team spread out, searching through the debris. The water around them felt strangely warm now, moving in a slow circular pattern. One explorer pointed toward the distance. Do you see that? Something is moving, Doctor. Mara looked up, squinting. At first she thought it was a mountain, a long dark shape stretching across the horizon. But this planet had no mountains. The shape moved again, slowly but clearly. Her heart skipped a beat. Mountains don't move, she whispered. The dark shape on the horizon continued to shift slowly, almost too slowly to understand. Dr. Mara held her breath as she stared at it, trying to make sense of what her eyes were seeing. The others turned their heads as well, following her gaze. At first the object looked like a line, thin, far away, harmless. But the longer they watched it, the more it changed. It grew taller. It stretched wider. It moved with a rhythm that felt unnatural for solid land. One of the explorers, a young specialist named Ryan, stepped a little closer to Dr. Mara and whispered, "Is that a wave?" No one answered at first. No one could. Their minds refused to accept it. Waves on Earth were normal, water rising and falling. But this thing at the horizon looked as tall as a skyscraper and moved as slow as a sleeping giant. It did not behave like any wave they had ever seen. The narrator's voice returned, calm but filled with tension. The explorers do not yet understand the danger they face. On the water planet, gravity is the master. It shapes the ocean into forms that look like mountains. These structures rise not from the planet's surface, but from the pull of the black hole. But the team could not hear this wisdom. They only saw a shape that made their hearts beat faster. "Let's continue the search," Dr. Mara said, forcing calm into her voice. She didn't want panic to slow them. "We're wasting time." They resumed their work, moving through pieces of the broken probe. The water around them became rougher with each passing minute. The small waves slapped against their suits, leaving cold streaks behind. Ryan used a handheld scanner, waving it around slowly. "Beacon signal is faint but close," he said. "Maybe 10 meters. "Good," Dr. Mara replied. "Find it fast." Above them, the clouds had thickened, forming low gray sheets that moved in strange circular paths. The wind was steady now, blowing constantly from the direction of the distant wave. It carried the scent of cold metal and wet minerals, something harsh and heavy. Another explorer, Hannah, knelt down to check a floating metal panel. "The beacon might be stuck under this," she said, pushing it aside. The water pulled it gently, as if helping her. Suddenly, the wind changed direction. It didn't shift gradually. It swung instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. The water around their legs twisted into spirals. Hannah froze. "This is not normal," she whispered. Doctor. Mara looked up again. The dark line at the horizon had risen even higher. Now it was impossible to mistake. It was a wall of water, a giant wave, a tidal wave. But it moved with an eerie slowness as if the planet obeyed a different set of rules. The narrator explained what the explorers could not. These tidal waves are created by the black hole's gravitational pull. When the planet rotates, it drags the ocean with it, but the black hole pulls back. This creates waves hundreds of meters tall, slow in movement, but carrying unimaginable force. The team finally found the beacon buried under several layers of broken metal. It blinked weakly, damaged, but still active. Ryan lifted it carefully. Got it. A wave of relief washed over the group, but it lasted only seconds. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the horizon, low and vibrating like the roar of a massive creature. The water around them trembled. Ripples spread outward in patterns that looked unnatural, spiraling outward in sharp, perfect circles. Hannah's voice cracked. The wave, it's coming faster. Dr. Mara looked again. Her heart stopped. The wave that had been slowly stretching across the horizon had now taken a clear shape. It towered above the horizon line, so tall that its top disappeared into the low clouds. It wasn't just wide, it was endless. There was no visible end to either side. It looked like the ocean itself had stood up. And now it was moving toward them. Fast, too fast. We need to return to the ship, Dr. Mara ordered, her voice suddenly firm. Her instinct screamed at her this was no ordinary storm. This was nature at war with gravity. The team turned around and began walking back, but the water had become deeper. Small waves collided against their suits, slowing them down. Each step felt heavier than the last. The ground beneath the water turned softer, almost like the mud was pulling at their boots. The wind grew even stronger, rushing past them with a cold, wet sting. The sky darkened further, the clouds swirling in strange patterns. The narrator spoke. The closer the wave comes, the more the environment changes. Air pressure drops, water temperature rises, gravity twists the landscape. The explorers are now walking inside a storm created not by weather but by the black hole's pull. Ryan looked back and froze. It's huge, he whispered. Dr. Mara didn't dare look. Don't stop, keep moving. But the wave had grown even bigger in the short moment she looked away. Now its details were clear, not smooth like normal water waves, but jagged and layered as if the ocean had been sliced into vertical sheets and stacked on top of each other. The bottom churned in slow rotation, dragging massive currents behind it. The water around the team rose to their chests. Their suits were heavy, their movements slow. We won't make it, Hannah shouted. But Dr. Mara pushed forward. We will, keep your legs moving. The spacecraft was still too far for comfort. The planet seemed determined to slow them as if gravity itself was gripping their ankles. A violent whirlpool formed near them, small compared to the giant wave but strong enough to pull at their legs. One explorer slipped for a moment, tumbling into the water, splashing hard. Dr. Mara grabbed his arm and pulled him up. Don't fall again, the current is too strong. Lightning crackled inside the clouds far above the wave, lighting up the sky for a brief second. It revealed the true height of the wave, towering like a moving mountain. No one spoke. Fear had taken over. The narrator explained the unseen danger. These tidal waves carry enough energy to lift entire oceans into the sky. Nothing made by humans can stand against them. If the explorers do not reach their craft in time, it will be crushed or worse, lost in the planet's distorted time. The group pushed forward harder. The lander now looked closer, its bright white surface shining against the darkening sky. But the water had risen dangerously high. The ground trembled again. A second wall of water appeared behind the first, another tidal wave rising even higher, pulled by the same gravitational force. Two waves, one coming fast, the other following like a shadow. We have two waves, Ryan cried, nearly choking as water splashed across his helmet. Dr. Mara finally turned and looked, her breath catching in her throat. Two waves, one enormous, the other even larger, both moving toward them. Hannah's voice cracked with terror. This planet doesn't want us here. The water reached their shoulders. Their suits were not built for swimming. Each movement felt like pushing through cement, but they kept going. Their lives depended on it. At last they reached the ship. The ramp was half submerged, water sloshing against its sides. The waves behind them roared louder now, the sound vibrating through their suits. They climbed onto the ramp one by one, struggling not to slip. Inside, alarms went off, warning of rising water levels and intense gravitational fluctuation. The narrator added, escape is no longer just difficult, it is nearly impossible. The pilot slammed the door shut as water splashed inside. Strap in, he shouted. The engines began to warm, shaking the craft. Outside, the first massive wave was now only minutes away, its shadow stretching across the ocean like a curtain of darkness. Inside, Dr. Mara stared out the window, her heart pounding. Her voice shook as she whispered to herself, We're not going to outrun that. The engine screamed louder. The craft shook harder. The wave roared like thunder. And as the ship lifted only a few centimeters off the water, a crack echoed through the hull. A warning flashed red: engine failure, gravity distortion detected. The narrator delivered the final blow. The explorers have seconds left, but fate has turned against them. The tidal wave rose above the ship and crashed down. Inside the shaking spacecraft, alarms flashed red across every panel. The explorers were thrown sideways as the giant tidal wave crashed into the hull. The entire ship groaned like a living creature under pressure. The floor vibrated with violent shudders as water pounded against the metal walls. For a moment, everything went white inside Dr. Mara's helmet, her ears ringing from the impact. She blinked rapidly, trying to steady her breath. The others struggled to stay in their seats as the ship rocked left and right, almost as if it would flip. The narrator returned with calm intensity. Water, when lifted by extreme gravity, becomes as powerful as steel. The tidal wave that struck the explorer's craft is not a normal wave. It is a moving wall of ocean driven by forces beyond human understanding. Ryan shouted over the chaos, pulling himself upright. We're still intact, the hull is holding. The pilot shook his head, gripping the controls. Barely, we need the engines working or that second wave will crush us. Dr. Mara grabbed the side rails to stop herself from sliding. Her voice was strained. Check the engines. What's the damage? The pilot scanned the flashing screens. The readings were unstable numbers jumping wildly because of gravitational distortion. Thrusters are offline, gravity is pulling them out of alignment. Can you fix it? Hannah cried from her seat. Not unless gravity stabilizes, and this planet won't let that happen. Outside the window, water rushed across the glass like a liquid curtain, but something behind the water was darker, larger, rising. Dr. Mara squinted. Is that the second wave? Ryan's voice trembled. It's bigger than before. The ship jolted upward, then downward again as the remains of the first wave passed underneath them like a monstrous beast. The interior lights flickered. Every bolt and screw in the craft rattled. The narrator's voice echoed. The explorers have survived the first strike, but the second wave, shaped by even stronger gravitational pull, is now approaching. This wave is not just tall, it is colossal. Hannah fought to keep her balance. We're sitting ducks. If that second wave hits us like the first, the ship will break apart. The pilot slammed a hand against the control panel. Come on, power back, power back. But the warning symbols continued to glow red. Suddenly, the water covering the windows began to retreat, sliding downward as the ship rose slightly, lifted not by engines, but by the planet's shifting gravity. The explorers leaned forward, staring outside. The surface of the ocean flattened for a brief moment, revealing the distant horizon. And there, towering far above everything, stood the second wave. It was no longer just a wave. It was a wall of water stretching up into the clouds, rising so high that its top faded into mist. It looked like a vertical mountain range made entirely of liquid, frozen in motion, moving forward like a silent giant. Dr. Mara felt her chest tighten. That can't be real. But it was. The narrator explained quietly. What the explorers see now is gravity at its most violent. The black hole pulls the ocean upward, shaping it into vertical structures. These false mountains are not solid land, but water raised so high they touch the lower atmosphere. Ryan whispered, "It looks like the ocean is standing." Hannah stared wide-eyed. "It's a mountain made of water." The ship trembled again as smaller waves reached them. But these were nothing compared to the impossible wall moving closer. The water mountain stretched across the entire horizon, with no beginning and no end. The explorers watched in disbelief as lightning crackled within the massive structure, bright flashes illuminating layers of swirling water inside the wave. It was like staring into a living storm, trapped inside a vertical wall. Dr. Mara tore her eyes away and snapped into action. "We can't stay here. Pilot, try the engines again." The pilot gritted his teeth, tapped several commands, and hit the ignition. The ship jerked violently but did not rise. Alarms roared, engine override, gravity too strong. Hannah covered her helmet with both hands. "We're trapped." Ryan checked the pressure levels. "Hull integrity is dropping. If that wave hits, it will tear us apart." The pilot slammed his fist onto the controls. "The only way to survive is to move before the wave reaches us." "We can't move," Hannah yelled. Dr. Mara's mind raced. She forced herself to breathe slowly. Fear wouldn't help. She needed to think. This planet wasn't normal. Its rules were different. The wave wasn't just water. It was gravity-made structure. And maybe they could use that. "Hear me out," she said, gripping her seat as the ship shook again. "The wave is tall because gravity is lifting the water. But behind the wave, the ocean falls back down." Ryan nodded quickly. "Understanding. A drop zone." Hannah frowned. "What does that mean?" Dr. Mara continued. "It means the water behind the wave might be lower. If we get behind the wave into that drop zone, the gravity distortion may weaken. And then the engines might work," Ryan added. The pilot's eyes widened. But how do we get behind a moving mountain of water? It's coming straight at us. Dr. Mara looked out the window again, studying the waves' movement. It was slow, slower than Earth waves, but its height made it incredibly dangerous. It's slow but huge, she said. If we time our climb with the wave's base as it reaches us, the ship might ride upward instead of being crushed. Hannah shook her head. You want to ride the wave? This isn't surfing, Mara. Ryan checked the gravity levels. Actually, she might be right. The lower part of the wave is rising, not falling. If we power the thrusters at exactly the right moment, the wave's force might push us upward. The pilot rubbed his face. If we miscalculate, the wave will flip us into the ocean like a toy. Dr. Mara's voice turned firm. It's suicidal, but staying here is certain death. The narrator added, in environments controlled by extreme gravity, the best chance of survival often comes from using the planet's own forces. The explorers must now make a choice. Fight the wave or try to slip behind it. The wave moved closer, its roar growing louder, deeper, like thunder rolling across the sky. The atmosphere itself shook. The water cracked and folded inside the massive structure. The pilot took a deep breath. Everyone, strap in. This is our only chance. Hannah's hands trembled as she tightened her belt. This is madness, Ryan whispered, but it's our only way. Dr. Mara kept her eyes on the towering wall. It was now so close that it blocked out half the sky. Shadows from the wave darkened the entire ocean around them. The pilot gripped the controls tightly. All right, when I count to 3, we fire thrusters. The moment the wave hits the hull, we let its force push us upward. The wave loomed directly over them, so close they could see the swirling tunnels of water inside the enormous structure. Lightning flickered. The ship vibrated violently. Dr. Mara whispered to herself. Hold together, please hold together. The pilot began counting. 3, the wave descended. 2, a deafening roar shook the air. 1, the cockpit lights flickered and alarm screamed. Thrusters go, the pilot slammed the ignition. The engines burst with a violent jolt. The wave struck. Water engulfed the ship, pressing it downward, then forcing it upward with unimaginable force. The ship shot upward like a bullet, spinning, twisting, fighting to stay upright. Dr. Mara screamed. Hold on. The wave center lifted the ship higher and higher, but as they reached the peak, something unexpected happened. The top of the wave split open. A massive whirlpool formed inside the water mountain, dark, swirling, bottomless. The ship tilted toward it, and the narrator whispered. They escaped one death, only to fall into another. The spacecraft dropped directly into the giant whirlpool inside the tidal wave. The ship fell into the dark whirlpool like a stone dropped into endless water. Everything inside the cabin turned upside down. Straps pulled tight against their suits, metal panels rattled, and warning lights flashed like angry red stars. The explorers felt their stomachs rise into their chests as gravity twisted around them in impossible ways. Dr. Mara squeezed her eyes shut for a moment as the ship spun violently. Her vision blurred. The sound of rushing water became deafening, like 1,000 waterfalls collapsing at once. But she forced herself to breathe evenly. Panic would waste precious seconds they didn't have. Outside the window, nothing looked real. Water wasn't simply falling. It was rotating upward, sideways, and downward all at once, like the ocean had become a giant spiral staircase made from liquid. The whirlpool didn't behave like any whirlpool on Earth. Gravity was pulling the water up, toward the black hole, while the planet's rotation dragged it in circles. The narrator spoke softly. Inside this deadly whirlpool, the explorers faced something unknown. Gravity has turned from a familiar force into a wild storm. Here, water flows in directions impossible on Earth, and time slips like sand through a broken glass. The pilot fought the controls, trying to stabilize the spinning craft. Come on, come on. His voice cracked with stress. Ryan held the beacon tightly against his chest as it flickered weakly. The signal is failing. If we lose it, this mission means nothing. Hannah, gripping the side rail until her knuckles turned white, shouted, We have to get out of the whirlpool, now. The ship dipped lower, deeper into the dark spiral. Through the window, Dr. Mara saw the deepest part of the whirlpool, a circular pit of complete darkness, as if the ocean had opened its mouth to swallow them whole. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. We're heading toward the center, she yelled. Pilot, pull up now. I'm trying, he screamed back. The thrusters sparked violently, sputtering against the crushing gravitational forces surrounding them. The ship lurched sideways again, almost flipping completely. They were thrown to the left, helmets slamming into the seat frames. For a brief second, Dr. Mara felt weightless, her body floating against the straps. Then gravity snapped back, slamming her down with brutal force. Hannah let out a gasp of pain. My ribs. But there was no time to check injuries. The entire ship plunged deeper into the spiral. The narrator explained, the whirlpool is not simply water. It is a gravitational vortex where the black hole's pull stretches space itself. If the explorers fall into the center, they may not die instantly, but time inside that vortex will tear their mission apart, and its inside could equal decades outside. The center of the whirlpool glowed faintly now, not with light, but with darkness so complete that it looked like a hole punched through reality. Ryan's voice trembled. If we fall in, we'll lose everything, everyone we care about. They'll grow old while we're trapped. Dr. Mara swallowed hard. We are not dying here. Her voice shook, but her eyes blazed with determination. Then something changed. A massive boom echoed through the ocean. The whirlpool jerked. The outer rings of water shifted direction. A new force was pulling them upward. What's happening? Hannah cried. The narrator clarified. As the first tidal wave collapses behind them, the second tidal wave pushes forward. This collision of two gravitational giants creates turbulence so strong that even the ocean begins to rise into the sky. The water beneath them began to lift, dragging the ship with it. The whirlpool's center widened, stretching upward like a twisting pillar of liquid. The pilot's eyes widened. This is it. This is our chance. The upward force might push us out. He slammed the controls, firing the thrusters at full power. The engine sputtered, then ignited with a deep roar. The ship shook violently as the water mountain carried them up the spiral like a liquid elevator. Hold on, the pilot yelled. The ship shot upward. The whirlpool towered around them like a spiraling tunnel. Water rushed past the windows at impossible speeds. Ryan stared in awe. We're climbing it, Doctor, Mara nodded. Use the momentum, ride the spiral. The pilot angled the thrusters to follow the natural curve of the vortex, guiding the craft upward like a surfer riding the inside of a giant barrel. But the higher they climbed, the more violent the water became. The pressure outside the hull creaked and groaned as if trying to crush the ship. The narrator added, this climb is a fight against nature itself. One mistake, one wrong angle, and the vortex will consume them. Suddenly, a massive collision echoed from the hull. Bang! The ship shook violently, nearly flipping. Hannah screamed, did we hit something? Ryan checked the readings. Debris from the old probe, the vortex is pulling everything upward. Another impact. Bang! Metal shards shot past the window like deadly arrows. One large piece slammed into the hull and stuck there, vibrating from the force. Cracks formed in the glass panel on the left side. No, 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 the pilot yelled. Water burst through a small gap, spraying across the cabin. Dr. Mara grabbed the emergency seal gel and pressed it onto the crack. It hissed, expanding into a temporary seal. Go, just go, she shouted. The ship continued to rise. The top of the vortex was visible now, a circular opening surrounded by spinning walls of water that twisted like wet tornadoes. Ryan squinted upward. We're almost out. The pilot steered the craft toward the opening. The engine strained. Alarms blared, pressure gauges spiked. Come on, he yelled. Then finally the ship broke through the top of the vortex. They shot out into open air. The ocean below churned in chaos, the giant whirlpool collapsing as the second tidal wave crashed behind it. Hannah gasped loudly. We're free. But freedom didn't last long. The ship shot upward too fast. The engines overheated. A new alarm flashed, critical gravity spike, altitude unstable. The narrator's tone darkened. The force that pushed them upward is not finished. The collapsing waves have created a gravity shockwave, strong enough to drag the ship into the upper atmosphere. The craft spun violently upward, dragged by a massive upward current of wind and gravitational pull. Dr. Mara clung to her seat. Pilot, control it. I can't, he yelled. We're being pulled upward by the black hole's tidal force. The stars above them twisted like a spinning wheel. Their altitude rose faster than any safe speed. Hannah cried out, we're going into the atmosphere too fast. The heat shields glowed bright orange. Ryan screamed, we're burning up. The ship roared through the upper sky, caught between the collapsing tidal waves below and the crushing pull of the black hole above. Dr. Mara looked out the top window. Something enormous filled the sky. Not a wave, not a cloud, something darker, something circular, slowly rotating, growing larger. Her breath froze. Is that Gargantua? The narrator whispered. They survived the waves, the whirlpool, the storm. But now they face the one force no human can escape. The black hole's accretion disk glowed like a burning halo around a sphere of absolute darkness, and the ship was being pulled directly toward it. The spacecraft shook as if invisible hands were pulling it apart piece by piece. Warning lights flashed everywhere, turning the cabin into a storm of red reflections. Alarms screamed constantly. Heat shields glowed bright orange, almost melting. The noise from the engines sounded like distant thunder trapped in a metal cage. Dr. Mara struggled to stay conscious as gravity smashed her against her seat. Her lungs felt heavy, as if the air itself had become too thick to breathe. She opened her eyes only for a moment, and what she saw sent ice through her body. The black hole, Gargantua. It filled the sky like a dark sun, a perfect circle of darkness, swallowing light, bending space, curving the stars around itself like a cosmic whirlpool. The glowing disk around it burned with gold, orange, and white fire so bright it looked like the universe itself was melting. The narrator spoke softly. Few humans have ever witnessed a black hole up close. Even fewer have survived. The explorers now face a force so powerful that not even light can escape its grasp. Hannah clutched her harness with trembling hands. We're going to die. I can't watch this. Ryan grabbed her hand to stop her panic. Breathe, just breathe. We're still alive. Barely. The pilot fought the controls with all his strength. His voice cracked under pressure. Gravity is too strong. The ship isn't responding. We're being dragged forward. The artificial gravity readings were impossible, spiking higher every second. The ship shuddered like a leaf trapped in a tornado. All around them, space itself seemed to twist, stretch, and ripple like a living creature. Dr. Mara forced herself to speak, even through the crushing pressure. Pilot, we need to angle the ship. Use the thrusters, the side thrusters. We'll rip apart, he shouted. We'll rip apart if we don't. She shot back. The pilot gritted his teeth, then slammed the thruster controls. The ship tilted sharply, causing everyone inside to slide sideways. Metal screamed as if the ship itself was in pain. Outside the window, the glowing halo around Gargantua blurred, spinning like a wheel of fire. The ship had entered the outer region of the black hole's tidal pull, a region where space bends like soft fabric. Ryan checked the time readings. His voice broke. Time is running too fast, too slow, I don't even know anymore. Our clocks aren't matching. The narrator explained calmly. As the explorers fall toward the black hole, time stretches. Minutes here equal years outside. Their mission to recover a single beacon now threatens their entire future. Hannah whispered. When we return to the main ship, everyone will be older. Dr. Mara didn't want to think about it. We have to survive first, then we worry about time. The ship jolted again as another gravitational wave hit them. The hull bent inward for a moment, metal straining under the unimaginable forces pressing against it. The pilot yelled, engines at max now. He slammed the activation. The engines roared like a dragon awakening. Flames shot out of the rear thrusters. The ship began to climb, slowly, very slowly, as if climbing against the weight of an entire planet. The nose lifted tiny degrees, fighting against the pull of the black hole. The glowing accretion disk pulsed in the windows like a beating heart of fire. Hannah cried, we're moving, we're actually moving. But Ryan saw the data and shook his head in disbelief. We're barely gaining altitude, it's not enough. The ship pushed harder. The engines overheated. Smoke filled the cabin. A fire alarm rang. Dr. Mara coughed. Pilot, vent the smoke. I can't, we lose pressure, we die. The narrator added, every choice is a risk. Every second they remain inside the gravity well, their ship weakens and time outside stretches further away from them. Finally, the ship broke free of the strongest gravitational pull. The black hole grew slightly smaller in the window. They had escaped the deadly center, but not the danger. The pilot gasped for air. We're alive, we're actually alive. For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Everyone breathed heavily, exhausted. Their suits were soaked in sweat, their muscles ached. Their minds felt stretched and shaken like they had been awake for days, but Dr. Mara knew it wasn't over. The beacon in Ryan's hands beeped weakly again. He looked up. We still have the data. Hannah almost cried. After everything, we didn't lose it. But the pilot's expression changed. He scanned the external sensors and frowned deeply. Dr. Mara noticed. What's wrong? He didn't answer right away, he simply pointed at the window. Dr. Mara turned her head slowly, and her heart dropped. Floating in space were the remains of their main ship, the station where their teammate had been waiting. The ship that was supposed to bring them home, it was still there, but broken. A massive tear split the main hull in half. A piece drifted aimlessly, spinning slowly. The solar wings were shattered. The main deck was gone, Hannah gasped. No, Ryan whispered, how long were we gone? The narrator answered in a cold, distant voice. The explorers spent minutes on the water planet, but to the main ship in orbit years passed. A soft static voice came from the broken radio system. And then Mara, anyone, are you alive? Dr. Mara froze. She recognized the voice. It belonged to their teammate, the one who stayed on the orbiting station. A friend. Someone who was young when they left. But now the voice was deeper, older, cracked with age. I waited so long, decades, maybe more. Mara, you promised to come back. Hannah covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Ryan whispered, time, we lost so much time. The pilot shook his head. We weren't gone for minutes, we were gone for years. Outside the window, a small emergency pod drifted near the broken station. The radio signal came from there. A single survivor. Mara, the ship is dying, come quickly before the audio cut out. Dr. Mara stared at the silent speaker, unable to move. Her voice barely escaped her lips. We didn't just survive the planet. We sacrificed time. We lost everything we left behind. The narrator delivered the final blow. Their mission is not over. The ocean planet tried to destroy their bodies, but the black hole has destroyed their future. The pilot pointed urgently at the screens. A new alarm flashed, critical orbit decay, black hole pulling the survivor's pod. Dr. Mara's eyes widened. Ryan shouted, "He's falling toward the black hole." Hannah screamed, "We have to save him." Dr. Mara stood gripping the rails and yelled, "Pilot full thrust, go now." The engines roared again. The ship lurched forward, racing toward the dying emergency pod, toward their aged teammate, toward another impossible rescue, as the black hole dragged everything closer to its mouth.